The highway stretched endlessly ahead, a silver ribbon glinting beneath the early sun. The hum of the tires, the faint rattle of dishes in the back, and the low music from the old radio. These were the rhythms of a life in motion. Some journeys aren't planned. They're stumbled into, felt rather than mapped. This was one of those. The kind that begins as an escape and turns into something sacred. The kind where you don't just drive away from something, you drive toward who you're supposed to be. The morning began with the sky blushing awake, a wash of orange and rose spreading across the horizon. The van, faithful and weathered, had slept beneath a cluster of pines. Dew gathered on its windows like tiny jewels. When I slid open the door, the air smelled of earth and salt, a whisper that the ocean wasn't far now. Every part of me ached to reach it. The coast was more than a destination. It was a promise. The road curved south and the landscape changed with every mile. The trees thinned, the light brightened, and the scent of the sea began to blend with wildflowers and gasoline. I rolled the windows down and let the wind rush through, carrying away the residue of yesterday's thoughts. It's strange how sound changes when you're close to the ocean. The wind has a saltier voice, the air seems to sing. For days I'd been chasing warmth and light. The road had been both kind and cruel. Some nights were stars and laughter, others were silence and doubt. But each mile stripped away another layer of fear. Somewhere between mountain and coast, I'd stopped being lost and started becoming free. Freedom doesn't roar, it hums. It hums in the small moments. Brewing coffee on a camp stove, rinsing your hands in a cold stream, waking up to the sound of nothing but wind. That's where I found it, on the way to nowhere, surrounded by everything. By the time I saw the first glimpse of blue on the horizon, my heart thudded like it hadn't in years. There it was, the ocean, vast and glittering, stretching out beyond belief. I pulled over. At a small turnout, the van settling into silence. For a long time I just stood there, the wind wrapping around me, the taste of salt on my lips. I had imagined this moment 100 times, but reality was softer, deeper. The sound of waves was like breathing made visible. Driving down the final stretch of highway, the road wound through sleepy coastal towns. Weathered wooden signs pointed toward beaches with names like Driftwood Bay and Shell Point. Surfers with sun-bleached hair carried boards across the dunes. A group of kids ran barefoot, their laughter rising above the gulls. Everything felt slower here. Time loosened its grip. I parked by a small cove, half hidden by palms. The sand was warm even through my shoes. The tide was low, the waves rolling, in with steady grace. There's a stillness that only the sea can give, a calm that doesn't silence your thoughts but softens them until they blend into the rhythm of water and wind. I sat down and let the world disappear for a while. The van became my small home on this edge of the earth. Inside was a bed built from old cedar planks, a shelf of books that smelled faintly of smoke and pine, and a tiny stove that hissed like an old friend. Every inch of space held a story, the scratch on the cabinet from when the road got too rough. The postcard taped near the window with a faded note that said, "Keep going." Nights by the beach were different. The stars felt closer, like they were bending to listen. I'd light a small lantern and cook simple meals, rice, vegetables, maybe fish bought from a local dock earlier in the day. The smell of the sea would drift in through the open door, mixing with wood smoke and salt. Sometimes I'd play an old record, the music warping gently with the sound of waves. Other times I'd just sit in silence, watching the ocean's silver, breath move under the moonlight. People think the road is lonely. It can be, but it also teaches you the kind of company that doesn't need words. The hum of the engine, the whisper of the tide, the creak of the van in the wind. They become your companions. You learn to listen in new ways, to the rhythm of your own heartbeat aligning with the pulse of the world. Days passed like the tide itself, flowing in and out with no urgency. I began to know the beach like a friend, the way the morning fog hugged the cliffs, how the sand cooled at sunset, the exact sound of a gull's call when the wind shifted. Each morning I woke with the light seeping through the van's curtains, soft gold spilling across the floor. I'd make coffee, barefoot on the sand, watching the sun climb higher. The ocean glimmered like a living thing, full of secrets it was willing to share only in whispers. Sometimes I'd meet travelers passing through. There was the painter who parked her old Jeep a few yards down and spent her days turning seafoam into color. The fisherman who spoke little but always left a fresh catch by my van door. The couple who had been on the road for years chasing endless summers. Each of them carried the same glint in their eyes, a quiet knowing that home isn't a place. It's a state of being. Evenings turned to ritual, a walk along the shoreline as the sun melted into the sea, the light shifting from gold to rose to violet. My footprints mingled with those of crabs and seabirds. Sometimes I'd find shells worn smooth by time, small tokens of patience and persistence. I'd pocket one now and then, reminders of how the ocean reshapes even the hardest things. There were storms, of course. Nights when the wind howled so fiercely that the van rocked like a boat, and rain lashed against the windows. But even then there was beauty, the kind that humbles you. I'd sit wrapped in a blanket listening to the storm's fury, feeling it cleanse the world. And when morning came, everything shone brighter, reborn. One evening, I built a small fire in a ring of stones and watched the flames dance against the backdrop of waves. The sky was bruised with sunset colors. I thought about the highway I'd left behind, the noise, the rush, the constant reaching for more. Out here, the world was enough. I was enough. The fire cracked softly, and for the first time in a long time I felt still inside my own skin. It's strange how quickly roots can grow even without soil. After weeks by the coast, this patch of sand felt like mine. I knew the tides, the songs of the night, the rhythm of each day. My van, once just a vehicle, had become a breathing space, alive with the scent of salt and cedar. I'd drape a hammock between two palms, nap in the shade, wake to the gentle rustle of fronds overhead. The world no longer demanded anything from me. One morning I woke before dawn. The sky was still half dreaming, soft hues of gray and blue melting together. I walked to the water's edge, my footprints trailing behind me. The first light broke over the horizon, spilling warmth across the sand. The sea shimmered like glass, and for a brief, perfect moment, everything was suspended. The world, the air, my heartbeat. I realized then that I hadn't simply found a beach. I'd found a beginning. The road hadn't ended. It had unfolded into stillness. The van, parked beside the palms, wasn't just a temporary shelter. It was a chapter written, in motion that had finally come to rest. I wasn't chasing sunsets anymore. I was living inside one. Sometimes at night I still hear the distant hum of the highway, the echo of all the places I've been, all the roads that brought me here. But I no longer feel the pull to go. The beach hums its own song now, one that speaks of staying, of breathing, of belonging. The ocean doesn't ask where you've come from. It just keeps offering its endless horizon. And so the journey continues, quietly, gently, without rush or fear. The wheels rest, the tides move, and the world keeps turning. From highway to beachside home, I learned what freedom truly means. Not escape, but arrival. Not running from the world, but returning to it. Every sunrise feels like a whisper. You made it. Every wave reminds me. You're still moving. Even here. The road taught me how to go. The ocean taught me how to stay.